Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell recording this on November 4th. Today is voting day, so I have to get ready to vote against Mamdani. I have to vote for Cuomo to prevent a communist from getting into the mayoralship for New York. I do not really want to vote for Cuomo, but Mamdani is a worse choice for New York City and for the country. Please go to my store and help support the work that I do. You can click the link in the description of this video. My website is the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you like the content that I make, because it's all for free, please help support by donating. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. You can be a paid member to my Patreon or my Substack. Make sure you follow me on X and on GETTR. You can follow me on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. All the links are in the description of this video. Please help support the work that I do. Again, all these videos I do are for free. I have thousands of videos for free to give you my perspective on the news and the markets and even about how to improve your health. I also have great products. So please go to the store, prepare for the fall and the winter, and better yet, slow down the aging process and improve your immune system. Go to my store and get the structural nano-silver soaps. You can get it in peppermint, in lavender, and also in lemongrass and charcoal tea tree. Very high quality structural nano-silver soaps. These are soaps that I use year round. Get the soaps for a gift, be prepared for the fall and the winter season, and help support the work that I do. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. Before we go to some of the issues with New York and Mamdani, because this is election day, I'm also going to plug a couple more products here. Please go to my store and get the Cleanse, which is 30 parts per million, or Max 35, which is 35 parts per million. Take a teaspoon a day, every day. Swish in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so, and then swallow. I've been doing this protocol for over 5 years. And what this will do is boost up your immune system, your innate immune system. It'll improve the health of your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, maintain your mucosal barrier, and help with the health of your epithelial cells in your oral pharynx. Super important for the fall and winter. Take this every day, but especially during the fall and the winter. If you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, take a teaspoon or 2 a day. Do the same thing, swish in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds or so, and then swallow. Once everything is all clear, then go back to your maintenance dose. You should be doing this every day, but especially during the fall and the winter season. Please go to my store, get the Max 35 or the Cleanse. And ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can get. If you're taking CoQ10, most likely you're taking an inferior product. This is the best that you can buy. There's nothing better in terms of CoQ10. So please get my ubiquinol from the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, what ubiquinol will do is soak up free radicals, help with the health of the mitochondria, boost up the ATP level so you'll have more energy. Your cells will have a better metabolism, and ubiquinol also helps to protect neurons. It's very important if you're 40 years of age or older. So please go to my store and get the ubiquinol. It stacks great with C60. And a probiotic, super important to take every day. You can get it in the veggie cap form or in the powdered form. I take the powdered form because I take a lot of different powders like the Gladiator Barley and the collagen, the lignans, the Boomer Boost. So it's just easier for me. But take the powder or the veggie cap version. Take the probiotic every day. And what this will do is improve your gut biome. And by improving your gut biome, your overall health will improve. Your skin will improve. You will also have better sleep. You'll be able to get into those cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. You'll be detoxifying your body with better sleep. But a lot of people don't realize that a good gut biome actually improves sleep. In addition, it'll improve your immune system at the gut level, thicken the mucosal lining, and increase the concentrations of IgA, which is a very important antibody in your gut. If you have low concentrations of IgA, you get sick. So in addition, it'll help with the communication between your gut and your liver, and therefore your metabolism is going to improve. So you get lots of benefits by taking a good probiotic. Good gut health will lead to a great foundation for overall health for your body. Please go to my store, get the veggie cap version of the probiotic or the powdered version. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Make sure you use discount 5. I want you to save some money, and take these products on a regular basis so you're improving your health. We're getting to the end of the year, and maybe you want to purchase some of these products because of the fall and the winter season, or maybe as gifts, or a New Year's resolution where you want to get healthy. Either way, get the products, use discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. Okay, now let's play this clip from Fox Business.
Really smart. It can be easily mounted anywhere inside the car without being limited by food. It supports a 360-degree adjustable angle and uses air pressure to automatically lock your fan, tightening automatically if it detects any air leaks. It remains stable even on khaki ground.
This is bad timing for the far left. Only 25% of Democrat voters view capitalism positively, but they aren't warming up to the idea of socialism. And that's the important distinction to make. They want opportunity, not ideology. They're frustrated, but not ready to throw the whole system out. And it's so interesting to me to watch the Democrat leaders scurry around. They are thinking about how this is going to go, what it looks like if they get behind, a socialist who many are calling a communist. If he loses, and I went on the record last week, Taylor, I'll just bring you up to speed and say, I went on the record last week to say, I think Cuomo is going to win. I think that the polls tightening, the margin of error, the people who are not talking about who they're going to necessarily vote for. And we're going to see an upset here because this is a city that is just not ready to embrace socialism or communism yet.
Oh, I don't know. I have so many thoughts. I spent a lot of time at home on my maternity leave, about 2 months, in a very deep red, tiny town, but in a big blue California state. And I think a lot of people came up to me and said, like, what are you guys doing in New York City? You people.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. You have a lot of young people coming out of college that don't deserve to be living in New York, but they think it's their God-given right to live in New York. They've been brainwashed with this ultra-liberal policy, pushing socialism and communism. They promote Marxism and not capitalism in college now. They come to they come to New York, all right, and they just think, you know what? It's too expensive, but it's their right to live here because they want to have the cultural experience, which is total bullshit. But the thing is that they think it's so great to be a New Yorker, and they automatically assume that if you can't afford it, therefore you have to have policies in place where these individuals are subsidized. The transient, New York it gets a flood of new people, youth, and they stay here for about 2 years to 3 years, and then they can't afford it, they don't like it or whatever, and they leave. And there's a new crop that comes in every year, and it's like this, that it's like a 2 to 3 year flow out. So New Yorkers, have you been here for a while? It's time, either if you were born here or if you've been here for a long time, which I have. But the thing is that you need to push back and stop this socialism. First of all, if you're young and you just moved to New York, there's no reason, there's no guarantee of being able to afford New York. If you can't afford it, get out. Don't create social programs where it's taxing people that have been here for a long time. Why? Oh, socialism. Socialism. Take from the rich and give to the poor. That's what it is. Now, New York needs to hold the line. You know why? Because if this social democratic socialist, aka Marxist, Mamdani, gets in, this is going to metastasize across the country. Now, what's sad is to say you have educated people that are buying into this crap. Now, there's a great term that I heard today, and that is suicidal empathy. That's what this is. It's this whole idea of, well, we got to be more kinder and gentler, and you know, we need to have socialism and help people. And you know what? Nietzsche said this, all right? And you may not subscribe to Nietzsche's policies, but he was talking about the master morality and the slave morality and the priestlyhood in his writings. And he was saying that in slave morality, it's weak because of this over-reliance of religion. And so what happens is they have too much empathy and they're taken advantage of. And this coincides with or aligns with this idea of Americans being apologetic. And you know, if you're successful, you got to be apologetic. You have a successful country, you got to be apologetic to the other countries that are not. You have spectrum dominance in warfare. You have to be apologetic for countries that aren't. No, Americans don't need to be apologetic. But what happens is that you have these ultra liberals and you have this suicidal empathy that's taking place, where you have this empathy and eventually the society is committing suicide because of it. You ever listen to individuals that are for Puerto Rico, nationhood, all right? And they're living in the United States. They're promoting the nationhood, but they're not willing to move back to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a territory for the United States, for ones that don't know. No, and you see this a lot in New York. You got these Puerto Ricans that are pushing for nationhood, but they want to stay in New York. Well, if Puerto Rico is so great, then why aren't you living in Puerto Rico? Because it's not that great. That's why. So people are supposed to be apologetic. So not only if Mamdani wins in New York, it's not just about economics. It's about pushing forward an agenda where it's forcing Americans to be apologetic for things that we shouldn't be apologetic for. And of course, they don't pay attention to The Republic by Plato and the problems with democracy and how it leads to tyranny because of the plebs. They don't pay attention to Nietzsche saying that the slave morality is weak. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So New Yorkers need to hold the line. Will New York hold the line? Will New Yorkers put aside their opinions on Cuomo and vote for Cuomo to make sure that Mamdani doesn't get in? Or are we going to have a democratic socialist that's pushing communist agendas and we didn't learn the lessons from Plato and from Nietzsche?
But they also followed it up with, you guys, you do you, right? We're in our good red town. We're paying our bills. We're mowing our lawn. We're getting our kids off to school. We're living our lives. So if you want to implode in New York City, be my guest. So there's that push-pull where I agree with you, Jackie. It's sort of the Democrats looking at this of like, is this the path forward for 2028? What does this signify for the party? But I think there's a lot of other people out there who are, I think, viewing this as an isolated event. I don't know. I come with maybe good news. Unfortunately, I think the city was in decline before this moment.
Yep.
The good news is this won't be the moment, right? Maybe this moment already started. I was reading something that The Economist had put out. New York City's workers employed in finance and insurance, which used to be the blood of this city, down to just 7%. That was 12% back in the 90s, right? Of the 233,000 jobs created in that industry, finance and insurance in America in the last 5 years, they're not going to New York. They're going to Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia.
Yep.
And Dagan, I pulled this from.
So this is the southern, the southern Y'all Street concept. And so basically New York's finance is trifurcating. All right. And what it's doing is it's moving to other areas that are more sympathetic to capitalism, lower cost, maybe even better life. But if you look at the history of socialism, they come in, destroy a society, and then they try they try to get more from others around them, and then it metastasizes. We've done the grand experiment. The grand experiment was right after World War II. Western Europe was capitalistic. Eastern Europe was communist. And guess what? When the fall of the Berlin Wall happened, and you compared the two regions of Europe, Eastern Europe was deprived. So what's happening here? Now, there is a subset within Western Europe. Eastern Europe was deprived. Western Europe had built up through the Marshall Plan. The problem within the West, some of these Western countries, was that they were flirting with socialism, and they would have false starts in terms of stabilizing their country or region or economies. Look, for example, what was going on with the UK. They flirted with socialism, and then all of a sudden Thatcher, for decades, and then Thatcher came in because of the overburden of debt and government efficiency went down. Thatcher comes in, straightens it up. There was this neoliberalism that was taking place in markets that led to a world boom in terms of economies, and that was this whole Thatcher-Reagan doctrine. So socialism did permeate and try to pull down some of the growth of capitalism in Western Europe. But when you look at a capitalistic society versus a controlled society like communism, in Western Europe and in Eastern Europe, respectively, you will notice that communism failed. Now, we already did the grand experiment, and it wasn't just for just a couple of years. It was for decades. The end of the 1940s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, then the early 90s, the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Laura's letter that I thought you'd like. That vast new, great, beautiful skyscraper that I know you love so much from JP Morgan. They have more people employed in Texas than they do in New York.
Yeah.
So maybe, and I don't think this is good because I want to root for New York City. I'm like Cottrell. I don't like cities burning. I don't want to see us tear ourselves apart. But this moment, I think, started a few years ago, and this is just maybe accelerating it.
And I think you touched on something, and thank you for making that, crystal clear that New York City is really strong. No matter what happens tomorrow, what the results are, we will get through it. We got through the pandemic, Dagan, and somehow we're all still here and we managed. But I think
the thing is it's like a patient. You ever watch someone die? I have, a lot of times. What will happen is that, especially if it's a chronic type disease, all right, and they're near the end stage of their life, what you'll notice is that as they're declining, once in a while there's a little bit of a increase of vitality, and then all of a sudden they come back down. So if you average it out, they're declining. But what happens is that if you look at it over time in the X and Y in terms of stability of the systems, because what's happening is there's different organ systems, your different systems are starting to break down. What happens is that it undulates, but it's a downward spiral. All right, there is this harmonic, where your body may be a little bit more vital, have vitality, and then all of a sudden it declines again. But each low is lower than the previous low, and each high is lower than the previous high, and it's downward spiral. So you might see a little bit of them getting a little bit better, and then they get worse, and a little bit better, and then they're getting worse, especially when you're trying to navigate the patient with drug treatment and all this. That's what's happening to New York. So we're going to see a decline. If Mamdani wins, there's going to be a psychological effect, and then eventually people will get numb to it, and then there'll be a little bit of an increase in the psychology of New York, and then all of a sudden there'll be another drop, and then there'll be a little bit of a psychological increase, and then another drop. So there's if you average this out, there's a steady decline that's happening. And again, like they stated, this has been happening before Mamdani. I personally think it started at the tail end, the last 2 years of the Bloomberg administration. That's when I think it truly started. But it was slow because it was right at the peak. And, when like a roller coaster, at the peak, it's really slow and it doesn't gain momentum until it gets past the peak. So it was just petering out at the tail end of the Bloomberg administration. But New York is in decline. Why? Because you have people that are apologetic, suicidal empathy that's taking place, and a push typically by a intelligentsia that doesn't know their history and that's young, that's pushing socialism.
Is that there is not really broader appetite for this in America. You might have a demographic shift that allows for it here in New York City, but others don't want this, which is why those insurance and finance jobs have flown the coop already.
I've made a face when she mentioned it.
And the bottom line is that demographic shift, youth, college educated, that's been brainwashed by socialism by the professor, and there is a flood of immigrants, illegal, there's a combination of things that are going on there. That flood is creating this suicidal empathy and this trying to make New York or New Yorkers apologetic for income inequality. So, and then when you have actually naturalized immigrants, they go one of two ways. They either become very pro-American, right, and pro-constitutional, law-abiding. I've seen a lot of them. But then there's also a group that, for some reason, and it's typically Latino and blacks, have some sort of black kind of ancestry, maybe in the from Africa or maybe even from the Caribbean. But the point here is that they have a tendency to be more socialistic or communistic, trying to take down the system. Right? This is a big problem in New York. People need to wake up to this. And then you add in the element of Islamic takeover, the caliphate. But the demographics are changing in New York. And not just the demographics, the actual, the ethos is changing. And so if New York cannot hold the line, this can metastasize to other states that have high density cities. They'll start in the high density cities. It won't start in suburbia. It'll start in the high density cities and then metastasize out to the suburbs.
2, your all-in-one smart home gym. Set it up anywhere, no limits, no installation. Feel the power of dynamic weight modes that adapt as you lift. With the Bluetooth ring and smart handles, adjust resistance instantly. Train safely, even solo. Assist mode reduces the weight when you're stuck.
I've made a face when she mentioned the JP Morgan tower.
I know you love it.
It was the, what's that smell? Oh, God. The jobs that have come to New York have been from technology companies, the Facebooks, the Googles, that have bought out vast amounts of real estate because they literally have money to burn. And so they socked it into reskinning buildings along the West Side Highway, buying the old Chelsea Market that's part of the vast number of buildings that Google has bought up. So will those companies, cut workers here or move them elsewhere? I was driving up 6th Avenue earlier this morning, and there was a Kalshi, the betting market site. There was an ad that was on a bus stop, and it was a kinetic ad. It was a digital ad. And it showed, and I was like, I don't know how you're selling your services, but it was the betting odds of Mamdani versus Cuomo.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, it looked like a political ad. Because right now, I can't remember the exact number I saw, but right now the odds are 93% for Mamdani versus 8% for Andy Cuomo. And I thought maybe that gets people to go out and vote for Cuomo.
But there's something weird about that because that's what it was 2 weeks ago. It hasn't moved at all. And I thought that those markets trade like almost like equity markets do when they move around. It almost seems bizarre to me, given the new polling information, that those numbers would remain static. I think the payout there is 10 to 1.
Right.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to add, if Mamdani wins, what will the people within the Democrat Socialists of America demand from him? Because they will come calling with their hands open and their arms open, ready to do a power grab of you are one of us, here's what we expect from you. Emptying the prisons, defunding the police. Their slogan still is seizing the means of production. So he is a socialist / communist. So anybody who votes yay Mamdani, that is what you're voting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, because you've reported on this extensively.
Well, it's just that I've lived here for 45 years. I know the city pretty well. I was born here as well. But the point is, to your question, whether Cuomo can pull out a win with odds against him, I've run into a lot of people in Manhattan over the past weekend because it was early voting, and so many of them voted for Sliwa, for Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah.
So there is a big push. Curtis, of course, has no chance of becoming mayor. I mean, he will claim otherwise, of course, but I don't think he does when you look at the polls. And a lot of people though who are afraid of Mamdani and don't want him to be the mayor, just can't stand Cuomo for his record as governor of this state. The other thing I would mention is that while nationally socialism is growing among Democrats, it was a 32% leap.
I'm telling you,
since
I see
2010, where
I see this socialism growing in Harvard, the Harvard community, the alumni. It's scary. It's getting scary because you're talking about people that have power. They have businesses. They're part of the political establishment, and they're socialists. So conservatives need to push back. They can't allow this to happen. Now, you either get on the damn battlefield and hold the line, or we're going to lose our fucking country.
Percent approved of it in 2010. Now 66% approve of it. But in that same time period, Democrats have lost a lot of registered voters. They've gone down about 10% in terms of, they had 31% of registered voters were Dems in 2010. It's now 28%. So a big drop, with the exception of New York City, because during the pandemic and particularly during the riots that followed the pandemic, a lot of Republicans left this city. So in New York City, we're going against the trend in the United States as a whole of Democrats slimming down and Republicans gaining. Of course, the independents have gained the most, but New York is a very different place, particularly since the pandemic, because it was so affected by that, and because of all the riots that happened here. So I'm afraid to say that I think Mamdani's the odds-on favorite in the way I look at it. I put my money.
So say that's the case. We talked about the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs and how it could potentially impact markets. You know, this is the financial capital of the world.
Yeah.
How does that impact markets if indeed this is what we see? I said earlier, New York will survive and we'll get through it. Somehow we always do. But is the stock market going to feel that way?
Well, 20 years ago, the centers of the financial world were New York and London. The trend has moved towards.
Well, the thing is that, oh, we'll be okay. Oh, New York will be okay. Really? This is the gray rhino problem. If people have been listening to my channel, they know the differences between the black swan, the gray rhino, and the dragon king. All right? The gray rhino is that it's going to happen. It has a high impact, but you're not doing anything about it. Mamdani is the gray rhino that's going to usher in socialism in the United States, because this is going to metastasize, and the Democratic Party is going to start riding this new wave into the midterm election. And I'm not sure if conservatives can stop this wave. It's super important to stop this crap. And you got New Yorkers that are going, oh, it's no big deal. We'll just, slough it off. No, it's a gray rhino. You can't have cognitive dissonance on this. You got to fight back. Hold the line. People need to hold the line and stop this from happening in your communities.
And Dubai, money goes where it's treated best. And if Mamdani was elected, I think you're going to see that trend exacerbated. You're going to see more jobs in Dallas. You're going to see more jobs in Miami. You're going to see more money flow to Dubai. But the sad thing is, the NBC poll, 44% of Americans are positive on capitalism, only 25% of Democrats, and 35% of Democrats are positive on socialism. So on the one hand, if he gets elected, maybe you'll have a case study of why not to do it, and people will wake up, because we saw it in the 70s, what happened in New York. We saw it with Dinkins in the 90s, and maybe people need to see the results before they can change their mind.
80s.
The problems aren't going to arise until after the midterm election, because Mamdani is going to be coming in. It takes about a year to implement the policies and to see the effects. So that's going to be, to see the true effects of it is going to be after November 2026. So in 2027, we're going to start to see the problems with his socialistic policies. So my concern is that this wave of socialism will take root during the midterm election, and the Democratic Party is going to get more seats in the House and more seats in the Senate. Now, if they get control of the House, I guarantee you that Trump's going to get impeached. Thank you, liberal. Thank you, socialist. Thank you so much for screwing up this country again.
It's Dinkins.
Dinkins.
90s was Giuliani.
Yeah, 90s he came to speak to Columbia, and I fell asleep during the lecture. But this is not a positive trend as it relates to the stock market. I think it will be a blip. I think that the decision on tariffs is going to be the critical decision this week with regard to the bond market. And as Dagan said before about interest payments too, remember Powell has been 150 basis points too restrictive. So as that continues to come down, our interest servicing on the short end is going to come down. They've been refinancing a lot on the short end of the curve, but the fiscal responsibility on the long end of the curve is what we want. And we're getting that from tariffs, and we're getting that from record taxes due to growth and deregulatory policies. Atlanta GDP now, estimates for this quarter is 3.9% GDP growth. That brings in a lot of tax revenue because people are making money.
You bring up a good point. I'm also thinking as I hear you speak about AI and the engine of capitalism that is fueling AI, but AI being used by the left as a tool to say, this is why we need socialism, because it's going to eliminate jobs and people are going to need more help. I just put that out there as an open question.
AI, when it's doing structural unemployment, socialists are going to take that and push socialistic agendas. On top of it, AI is going to be used as a control mechanism for central planning. But we made all these billionaires to create AI only to usher in communism. Thank you very much, tech bro. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Why? Because this will help with your heart and your vascular system, your musculature, your metabolism. It'll increase your energy levels, help with your brain function. It's a very powerful supplement that you should be taking every day. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. It has a very comprehensive compound profile shown on the screen here. Go to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Take it every day. Super important to slow down the aging process. It'll also help to control A1C levels. Gladiator barley will help to build muscle, detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals through superoxide dismutase. Do some resistance training and you'll gain muscle. But by bringing down inflammation and detoxifying your body regularly and soaking up free radicals, you're helping your immune system, your endocrine system, even your brain function. You'll recover from your workout quicker. So please go to my store. This is a month's supply. Take it every day and do some resistance training, and it'll help you to slow down the aging process. You stack these together, you get an added benefit. See, you're helping your heart and your vascular system and your metabolism and your brain function, your musculature. You're building up more muscle with the Gladiator barley. This is micronutrient barley that you can't get at a regular store. In addition, you're bringing down inflammation, soaking up free radicals, and detoxifying your body. By doing this together, when you take these together, they're synergistic to slow down the aging process and to further improve your control of your A1C levels. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Boomer Boost, get the Gladiator barley. All right, one more video before I have to hold the line and vote for Cuomo to prevent Mamdani from taking over New York City. Because Dr. Paul Cottrell is voting for Cuomo, even though he doesn't like Cuomo. You know why? Because Dr. Paul Cottrell hates socialism. Dr. Paul Cottrell hates communism. Dr. Paul Cottrell thinks that Mamdani is going to destroy New York.
If you live in a New York zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years, listen carefully. I was an insurance.
Zorhan Mamdani, 34-year-old Democratic socialist. He's the
Communist, not socialist, communist.
So what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York. Because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there.
As New Yorkers pick their next mayor, it could shape up to be a battle royale between Washington and the Big Apple. President Trump doubling down and had more to say tonight.
He took to Truth Social just moments ago saying this, quote, Mamdani has no chance to bring it back to its former glory. We must also remember this, a vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, exclamation point, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. Joining us live on set to react, Fox News contributor and former NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow, the Federalist elections correspondent Brianna Lyman, and activist Zach Sage Fox. And he is the CEO of Fat Camp Films and works with Cuomo on social media campaigns. Great to see all of you. Paul, somebody said to me earlier today, we've said for almost 25 years, never forget, and we forgot.
Yeah, we used to say in the intelligence bureau where I worked that the further we get from 9/11, the closer we get to 9/10.
And that seems to be the dynamic here. And for a lot of people who are Mamdani's age or younger, 9/11 is something of a comic book. It's something that happened far, far away to different people that have nothing to do with them. But for a lot of us, it's still a date that redounds very heavily to today. And when I hear the possibility of federal funding being cut, my mind goes right there because we get a lot of federal funding in this town, counterterrorism operations. Units that were in dependent in many ways upon funds that were given by the DHS grants. That'll hit home.
What do you expect ultimately for the voters to do when they show up to vote? Zach, what do you think?
Well, I am praying that Republicans and independents rally for Cuomo. Really, that is our shot at saving New York City right now. And listen, I know Cuomo is not first on their list to be mayor, but I think they can agree that he is a moderate Democrat compared to a socialist, or as President Trump calls him, a communist. And honestly, this is the most power that Republicans have ever had in New York City, is tonight through tomorrow. You guys can change the entire outcome of this election. And it is so important, not just for New York City, but this is going to send ripples turning into waves around the country and the world for the anti-Semites of the world, the anti-capitalists of the world, the people who hate America. This will be a victory for them, whether we want to admit it or not. And so, as Republicans with those values, I pray that you guys help do the right thing and walk across the aisle to elect Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent. And I hope we'll lead that way.
But Brianna, I've talked to a lot of people to at least understand why somebody wouldn't vote for Mamdani. And I boil it down to a hatred of the rich, a hatred. They want to blame somebody for how expensive it is to live here.
Right.
And in essence,
and the reality of the situation is that they want to have the cultural experience of New York, but they can't afford it. So they want to take it away from someone else. See, the problem is that Mamdani is about taking away your property rights. Big problem, because it's anti-constitutional. And not only that, it's anti-enlightenment. Oh, but they're so smart. These liberals are so smart. They went to college.
I don't know what Mamdani stands for other than figuratively just burning it all down.
Yeah, I think it's threefold. I think there are a few people with genuine Marxist convictions who actually like Marxism, socialism, communism. They're voting for Mamdani. I think you then have people who have no idea what any of those things are, but they hear, oh, lower costs, free buses. That sounds good, right? And I think right now we're having this conversation nationwide about SNAP. People are complaining that the government is not giving them money to buy food. That is socialism right there. You don't like it, but you want it in New York City. I think the last point is people.
And think about it. We have 330 million people. 330 million people in the United States, roughly, assuming the census is right. Right? 42 million are on SNAP. It doesn't seem right. How many of those are actually illegal aliens? 42 million out of 330? SNAP is being abused.
Because he's a slick talking politician. And we're talking about Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo. Look, Curtis can siphon votes away from Cuomo. At the end of the day, even if Cuomo was to win tomorrow based on nostalgia and name recognition, he is not governing a base that he is used to. This is a much more organized and radical base that Cuomo is not one of them, and he has never governed people of that particular ideology in such a small demographic.
That's why I think he would, though, lead more as an independent. I think he would be leading as a center-left Democrat. And I'm coming from within the campaign, too. I really believe he's going to be a mayor for all New Yorkers. I think he's aware of what you just said as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think he should necessarily try to appease the radical base of the Democratic Party. Look, the entire country shifted right this past election. There was no mandate for any Democrats in leadership to go out and endorse Mamdani, and yet they've done that. And it's because they know the Democratic base is shifting left, and they are becoming the party of openly Marxists.
Yep. What we're going to see right now is the opposition between socialism and capitalism. You talked about funds being withheld, and when
it's not just the socialists at fault. It's not just the socialists or the communists at fault. It's the conservatives allow it to happen. You got to push back. Got to hold the line. Got to get on the fucking battlefield and make sure that socialism doesn't take over the United States. This is bullshit what's happening. Bunch of educated snot-nosed kids literally destroying capitalism.
Particularly that aren't really sure why they're voting for him, find out that certain services are going to be withheld or certain funds are going to be withheld. What's going to be the reaction in New York City?
You know, I can't believe that they don't have the wit to understand that if they vote for what you're talking about, it's going to occur. He's not being very coy about what he's promising to do. I think the problem I think that a lot of the younger demographic who are going to vote for him don't quite perceive is the fact that this guy's agenda tracks a lot closer to Beijing than it does to Washington, D.C. And I find it no accident that, in fact, he went over the top thanks to TikTok. He came out of nowhere in about a week. Nobody had heard of the guy. All of a sudden, he was the front runner. And now we start to hear from various think tanks and studies, something I've been saying from the beginning, which is that algorithm was gained to his benefit. My point is that I think a lot of them was sold a bill of goods. They don't quite realize what they're getting into, but it looked good on TikTok. But we got to him too late. The oppo, for lack of a better term, the opposition research. It came out too close to the election. That's why now his numbers are dropping. If we had another month, I actually don't think he'd be the favorite anymore. But the timing was quite slick. I think we're going to find out the hard way as we found out in the past. But let's just remember something. This is a town that put Bill de Blasio in twice.
Right. So are the violent criminals that he'll let out of Rikers become his Red Army?
You know, what people don't realize is that baked into the cake, back to the de Blasio administration, is that we're going to go down by at least 30%, maybe more, in jail beds. That has nothing to do with bail reform. They instituted that when they closed Rikers. Rikers is being defunded now. They're going to go to the borough-based jails. The reason that matters is that is a hard metric. You can change everything you want. In Albany, you can finally change the laws up there, which, you know, good luck with it. Even if you do, there's no place to put the bad guys. We're going to go down. We don't lock up anybody now. Take it down 30%. Imagine what that's going to look like.
Right. It's the bad guys will keep the plebes and the proles in line. Paul, great to see you. Thank you so much, Brianna Lyman and Zach Sage Fox. All three of you.
All right.
Go to web.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. This collagen is dual purpose. It's going to help with your skin, your nails, your hair, your musculature, your joint health, your cartilage, and your bone density. Do some resistance training. Make sure you build up that muscle. But this collagen is very high quality. Shown on the screen is the typical amino acid profile for the collagen. Take it every day. This is a month's supply. Do some resistance training. Get healthy. I want you to use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. Get the great supplements, stack them the way I'm telling you to, and you're going to improve your health and wellness. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That's the end of this video. I will do another video today, but I have to save New York and vote for Cuomo, even though I don't like Cuomo, because Mamdani is worse. Mamdani is like voting for Lenin or Stalin or Karl Marx. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.